Thank you. So as I said, good morning, good afternoon. I'm not drunk because the panelists here, they're just seeing the sun rise in the US, and some of them, my colleague is preparing for his lunch. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged to welcome three honored guests from the rest of the world, Shriman Banerjee, Shruti Parekh, and Dr. Alvaro Diaz Rubio. Shriman doesn't need much of an introduction. Half of you may already be knowing him. He is a luminary from the Indian Institute of Packaging, India. But those who don't know him, he is currently the head of diagnostics, software devices, and packaging at Takeda Pharmaceuticals in the US, and an eminent thought leader in packaging and sustainability. He has over 25 years of corporate experience in Fortune 500 companies. He has presented at over 50 conferences, written over 10 papers and articles, and received several awards on subjects. He holds 3 international patents on packaging and devices. Over the years, he has been a visiting faculty member at many institutes, universities, and associated with industry associations and NGOs. Let's welcome Shriman with a round of applause. Shriman, are you able to hear us?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I would like to introduce Shruti Parekh. She has over 20 years of human-centered design and sustainability design experience in corporate and social enterprise sectors across consumer goods, healthcare, technology, and appliances in both developed and emerging markets. Shruti is currently leading product design at Takeda Pharmaceuticals. Leading a team of designers, she fosters a culture of environmental responsibility while enhancing product functionality, aesthetics, and patient satisfaction. Her expertise in life science assessment, circular design principles, sustainable manufacturing processes, and patient-centric methodologies enable her to play a pivotal role in shaping a greener future and improving patient outcomes through thoughtful and inclusive product design. Let's welcome Shruti. And now I like to introduce Dr. Alvaro Diaz Rubio. He is PhD in chemistry, a former postdoc research at the University of York, and head of the nanotechnology department at the Footwear Technology Center of La Rioja, Spain, developing research projects in the field of liquid crystals, new luminescent compounds, or nano and new materials applied to consumer goods. Over the past 7 years, Alvaro has worked in the packaging sector. He was responsible for the Observatory of the Packaging of the Future, which focused on monitoring innovations in new materials, eco-design, waste management, and regulations in the packaging industry, in collaboration with the Extended Producer Responsibility Organization, HYBIZ, if I pronounce it correct, it's a Spanish word. Currently, Alvaro is a pharma sustainability at Constancia Flexibles, my colleague, where he works on innovative packaging solutions with lower environmental impact for the pharmaceutical sector, leveraging life cycle assessments. He is in La Rioja, the best wine space in Spain. So welcome, Dr. Alvaro, from my side as well, and happy to have you here on an international level as colleagues. So first of all, 3 of you, our sincere apologies for keeping you waiting, getting you out of your pajamas hurriedly, but keeping you waiting. Sorry about that. And this session, we've designed it a little differently. It's going to be a fireside chat between the 3 of them, led by Shriman Banerjee. So without much ado, I hand over the stage to Shriman. Over to you, Shriman.
Thank you, Mr. Jagdi, for inviting us, and good evening, everyone. Over the next 30 minutes or so, between myself, Shruti, and Dr. Alvaro, we will share about trends, innovations, sustainability on pharmaceutical packaging. I will start off the discussion with some thoughts and then hand it over to Shruti and Dr. Alvaro for sharing their insights and thoughts on this subject as well. So what is the trends or innovations happening in the pharmaceutical packaging space? So if we take pharmaceutical packaging development into consideration, it starts from a very early stage, which involves packaging for the clinical study. Subsequently, it leads to development for commercial packaging to be launched in the market, and subsequently, it leads into life cycle management of that packaging over its cycle in the market. Couple of things on the trends which is happening on clinical packaging. We all know that the drug product development is getting more complex, and more so even the new therapeutic areas which are coming in, whether it's cell therapy or gene therapy, they are equally complex in their development as well as in the commercial cycle. So what is happening in clinical studies? So the first thing which is happening is over the last couple of years, we have seen the introduction of smart packaging or connected packaging, which we would call it for clinical studies, where we have embedded electronic chips, whether it's in the form of NFC or whether it's in the form of Bluetooth, and these packaging is provided to the clinical sites and subsequently to the subjects and patients during their journey of the clinical studies, which enables on-time recording of the use of the dosage or the use of the medicine. And subsequently, there is also an opportunity to take this smart packaging in the commercial space as well. The second thing which we see more in terms of the commercial packaging development in light of some of the new therapeutic areas, for example, cell therapy needs temperatures of minus 180, minus 140 degrees Celsius. And effectively for that, we need packaging which is suited for that temperature. Even something as simple as a label needs adhesives which are able to suit that temperature, and we see again a lot of development which is more in the scientific and technology space happening in the pharmaceutical packaging development. Last but not the least, we see a lot of developments happening in sustainability, particularly materials of concern. Many of these things also related to the European packaging, plastics and packaging waste regulations, and need for sustainability by design so that we can meet the recycling, reuse and reduce targets as well. We all know that packaging starts with design, and design is a key element in all packaging. Pharmaceutical is no less, and while pharmaceutical packaging, the design elements have been minimal over the last several years, but that's catching up with patient centricity. And with that, I hand it over to Shruti to share her thoughts in terms of what's happening in patient-centric design, sustainability by design, and those aspects.
Everyone, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, good evening and good afternoon and good morning. So, it is good to be in different time zones and present like this virtually. I would be very happy to share my thoughts on patient-centric design and sustainability. So, when we talk about patients in pharma packaging, what we primarily focus on is safety, and that's the safety for the patient, safety for this product integrity, which plays a heavy role into how we are packaging and how we are sending our products to our patients. So it's kind of unfortunate that, you know, when we talk about there's so much which is happening in the world about sustainability. In pharma, the sustainability aspects are mostly driven by the legislations. So it depends on where we are selling or where we are sending our packaging and produce, and that's where we have to then look for all the sustainability aspects. And over the years, I have worked on various packaging solutions, be it a consumer packaged goods or any other high volume packaging. But after working for pharma packaging for the recent years, I have we have modified the process, the typical design process, into a design for sustainability process. And as I'm sure you all would have heard about the eco design principles, where the shift is happening from it's still in pharma packaging. We are still focused a lot on what the patient needs are, what how can we make the packaging more intuitive and good to use, but the boundary or the larger boundary of the packaging solution has probably changed to the environment concerns. So that's where we would first, if we are creating a solution for a certain region, we start looking at, okay, what the regulations of this place would be, or of the region would be. We identify those, and then we start doing, okay, if these are the regulations, then how do we, identify what materials can we use, what would be the end of life principles that we can involve. And that's where eco design comes in very handy, where we look at starting with innovation. How do we create solutions which are more innovative and more good for the environment, as well as the good for the patient. So we look at various manufacturing techniques. We look at various solutions in this aspect, and then how we come down to something which is more a win-win for both the patient and the environment is by doing an LCA. So let's say we have 3 or 4 concepts, and we would do a life cycle assessment analysis, and that's where we can identify what materials are good for the environment, whereas good for the product and the patient. And these LCAs are of course, it talks about, when you evaluate a model in LCA, it's not on just the product and the design solution. We also look at the distribution network and various other aspects of supply chain. And surprisingly, the results of an LCA, when we especially talk about pharma packaging, as compared to a CPG industry where the volumes are very high, and whereas compared with a pharma packaging where the volumes may not be so high, then we see results that are that identify the hotspots of carbon footprint in different areas. For example, it could be in the distribution and storage, where, let's say, if it's a global company, then you're manufacturing. You have a supplier who's sitting in Mexico. You have an assembly site that's happening in Europe, and you're sending it across the globe for after your assembly is done. So, and some of these packagings have to also travel in temperature controlled shipments, and that's where you're adding to your carbon footprint. So again, there's a trade-off which I initially talked about. How can we create a solution which meets all the safety and product integrity criteria, whereas also balances the environmental impact. So how do we balance that? And that's where I would say design and eco-design is really helpful. And I think Alvaro is going to talk a little more about the materials.
Yep.
Over to you, Alvaro.
Well, thank you, Shruti. Well, thank you all for the invitation, for having me in this summit. It's a pleasure for me to be here with these great colleagues. Well, I will speak about sustainability as a trend itself, not just in the pharma packaging, but obviously you know that sustainability is a trend. The word sustainability is so used that it's losing its meaning because sometimes it's used when it shouldn't be used. So I would like to start to define what sustainability in packaging is for us. So for us, sustainability in packaging is about reducing the negative impact on people and the planet while maintaining the functionality of the packaging. Shruti already mentioned this. We are speaking about a pharma product, which is a particularly sensitive product, and this part of the maintaining the functionality of packaging is key for us in pharma sector, because we cannot do any change that we want. We have to protect the product, and also it's not about safety, just safety of health. It's that if we cannot consume medicine, then it will generate a higher environmental footprint because we are not consuming that product, and probably, or for sure, the environmental footprint of the packaging that could protect that product would be much, much lower than the environmental decisions directly related to the products that we use. So in the case of packaging, for CPG, for example, there are several common strategies to reduce the negative environmental impact. Some of them are well known, such as the weight reduction of the packaging. For example, this happens when we compare like flexible packaging and rigid packaging. When we're using fewer amount of material, obviously we are also creating fewer amount of waste. Then we have the use of renewable materials, bio-based materials, second generations, for example, renewable materials. This could lead to reduced environmental footprint, reducing the emission of CO2. The incorporation of recycled materials, if that's possible in your case, starting to adopt models of reusable packaging, or, for example, improving recyclability. Okay, so in the case of pharma packaging, this could be very challenging in some cases, especially in the case of incorporating recycling material into the packaging material. Because, as you know, the regulations are very strict in this way, obviously. So it's kind of difficult to incorporate recycled material, especially if it's plastic, in the new packaging. But we have several strategies to adopt to try to reduce our emission, or the emission that's coming from our packaging. And that's what we have been trying to do in Constantia. We have looked at several of these potential strategies to reduce our emissions, our carbon emissions coming from our own products. And I can name a couple of examples of products that are already developed, are ready in the market. One of the strategies that we followed was to use raw materials with lower environmental impact themselves. Like, for example, I'm talking about the case of low carbon aluminum. Maybe you know about this material. It's exactly the same material, the same aluminum that we have been using so far, so the quality is the same, but the environmental footprint for this low carbon aluminum is much lower. And this is between other reasons, because during the production of the aluminum, they are using renewable energy. So in the case, for example, for blister packaging for pills, we could reduce up to 35% of the emissions when we incorporate this low carbon alu. Also there is another possibility that we could incorporate reprocessed or recycled aluminum coming from closed loop collection. So in this case, the reduction of the emission would be even bigger. So it's bigger than that 35%. And we also, for these formats that are mainly aluminum based, we can offer also a product that's PVC free. In cold form formats, usually PVC is part of the laminate. And as you probably know, when PVC is tried to be recycled, chlorine and chlorinate species could be generated and could affect the machinery for recycling. So it's kind of hindering the recycling process. So we can offer the possibility of having these kind of materials for blisters PVC free. So this would be one of these strategies, is using material that itself shows a lower environmental impact. And another one that we have explored is one that involves reducing the weight of the packaging and also improve the recyclability. We haven't said what recyclable means as well. I'm a bit like in definitions today, but there is no global fully accepted definition of what recyclable means for a packaging. But what's mainly accepted is that for a packaging to be recyclable, it has to be designed for recycling according guidelines that are released. There are several associations and groups and also legislation that released several of these guidelines. So we have to follow those guidelines for a packaging to be recyclable. Also, it has to be collected in a selective collection system. Then it has to be recycled at a scale industrially, and then they recyclate. So the result of the recycling process must be usable as secondary raw material for creating new products. So sometimes in our cases, when we produce a laminate to be used for pharma packaging, there are several layers with different materials, and sometimes that's very complicated for the materials to be separated and recovered. So one of the common strategies for eco-design is to try to create monomaterials. So in our case, we have developed a range of products called Perpetua and Perpetua Alta. This is a polypropylene-based laminate. So it's mainly, it could be considered that it's only composed by polypropylene, and this is a simplification of the layer, and it makes the packaging easier to be collected, to be sorted, and to be recycled. Okay, so what we have tried to do is to improve the recyclability, and this is obviously having an effect in the emissions of CO2, because we shouldn't forget that we have to take into account all the value chain, and also what we have done is to maintain a very good barrier to oxygen and humidity, and this is allowing us to protect the pharma compound correctly, which is what we were saying that's the most important thing. So we are not just reducing the amount of material that we use for Perpetua, but also we are improving the recyclability, and we are protecting correctly the product. So yeah, those two are two examples of the strategies that we are following now as trends, maybe in trying to reduce the environmental footprint of our products. And obviously, when you are using our products with reduced carbon footprint, that could help you in those targets of net zero to 2050, because we are your Scope 3 emitters. So yeah, I think this is like a collaboration way that we have to be involved in, and well, we're trying to do our best to help you and to help ourselves. So maybe, Sriman, you have some other trends in mind that we could comment?
Thank you, Alvaro. Thank you, Shruti, for sharing. I'll just speak a little bit, and then I'll request Shruti, yourself, and Alvaro to have the last words here. So a couple of other things which today, earlier in the day, we saw about artificial intelligence and use of softwares in packaging development. And I would say Pharmaceutical packaging is also coming in that space. There is a lot of use of software and AI for predictive analysis of shelf life. There is also software and again artificial intelligence which is being developed for some of the lab-based physical studies to be converted into modeling and therefore the testing on software platforms, which also is interesting because it will lead to development of new skill sets which will be required for packaging as well, where packaging is slowly somewhere. If you recollect earlier when I started the conversation, spoke about smart packaging, which means coming of electronics into packaging, then the software elements, the modeling elements, etc. We also, earlier in the day did discuss briefly about active packaging. And active packaging again is something which will impact pharmaceutical sector more than others in the region of shelf life, particularly in, as I mentioned, a new age molecule, which needs, even within the packaging environment, it needs I would say active elements to balance the environment of moisture and oxygen ingress. And that's where some of these technologies will come into play. There is a lot of opportunities even in terms of patient-centric design, which Shruti touched upon earlier, particularly related to the global aging population, where we will need pharmaceutical packaging to be ease for access, opening, readability, and all such instances which impact the global aging population today. So with that, I hand it over to Shruti and Alvaro for the last words, and we can conclude this session.
Before we conclude, maybe there will be time for one or two questions, maybe, if you all are okay with that.
Coming from the design field, I would just want to say that, early involvement of design, the process is something which I would suggest all the companies should do. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of sun on my face. Finally, the sun showed up after after one full day of rain. So, just a minute, please.
I could take the word here if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yep. What I was going to say is that obviously sustainability is a trend in packaging is because regulation is changing in the last few years, but also because we all are eager to do more for the environment. And this is a way that we cannot walk alone. This is a collaboration way, and we are trying to do our best developing new possibilities with lower carbon footprint, and you are doing your way. But it's affecting ours, and we are affecting the next step in the value chain. So this is something that we are working hard on. There are a lot to do, obviously using new technologies, and Freeman and Shruti mentioned before. So yeah, you should keep ourselves tuned because a lot is coming. It's coming, and I'm pretty sure that a lot good is coming.
Yeah, just wanted to conclude my what I started with. So in the conceptual process, the earlier decisions are the decisions that really affect the whole environmental impact of how the product is designed and what happens to it at the end of life. So while conceptualization is where we have a lot of flexibility in terms of budget, in terms of manufacturing, material choices, and that's what eco-design talks about. So earlier involvement of when when we are on the concept board, is when we should start practicing eco-design, start practicing life cycle assessment and such activities to involve in the product development. Yeah, happy to take any questions if any of the audience
Anyone has a
something.
question, maybe one or max two? Anybody? Or then we can close the session after that. But before we do that, Mr. Banerjee, Ms. Parekh and Dr. Alvaro, once again, sincere apologies for keeping you waiting for almost 2 hours than the schedule, but it only goes to show how interactive the earlier sessions have been. They were amazingly interactive and people were involved with it. A lot of good questions. So, are there any questions, or I will request Mr. Chakravarthi to say the final words.
Well, what a pleasure to have you, Sriman, this morning, your morning, and also your colleague Shruti, Parekh, and Dr. Alvaro. You really enthralled us. In fact, if anyone wants to know what's happening latest in the pharmaceutical technology, especially in the drug delivery devices and other areas, I think Sriman's name comes very quickly to our minds. You have been with us for a couple of decades already with us. And today you really had a wonderful interactive fireside chat session. It's a pity you're not there physically here with us, but nevertheless, we are the audience here, and also this is recorded. We can also listen to this and see this intriguing fireside chat among three of you, giving your valuable insights on this topic. And the future will be, again I say, packaging is your second physician. Sriman may laugh at it, but we have been constantly talking about it. The final contact between the patient and the product, that is the medicine, is nothing but the packaging. There is no physician, there is no nurse or a pharmacy or anybody. So the even in the COVID times, how packaging protected millions of lives, we all know. We are very, very fortunate to have packaging fraternity among ourselves. The pharmaceutical industry and packaging industry go in hand in hand. Each innovation in each sector will propel the growth in other sector. And thank you so very much once again, three of you, for your insights. We keep connected and we stay connected even in the future also. Thanks once again, Shriman, Shruti and Dr. Alvaro. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Signing off with that, have a nice day, three of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Well, my dear friends, what a day it was. Very tiring, but very enriching as well. Of course, we have had a few people left post-lunch. Nevertheless, we had a fantastic day since morning, right from the morning, and you have all witnessed. The highlight of the day was nothing but the CEO roundtable. It's an exclusive, integral part of this CITZ Packcon 4th edition, and it will be continuous like this only, with much more vigor, much more energy, much more knowledge sharing, and much more participation with all our people. So with this, we conclude the day one, and we seriously look forward to your session. Tomorrow we have excellent speakers. Right from the diplomats, British High Commissioner Mr. Gareth Wynne-Owen is coming in the morning. Along with him, Director General of Foreign Trade Additional and also Indian Institute of Packaging Director. Along with them, there are so many sustainability champions and also authenticity champions. Tomorrow, the theme will be sustainability and authenticity. I request all of you to stay tuned. Must attend this tomorrow's summit as well. In the meanwhile, we extend our wholehearted invitation to all of you. Take a break, maybe for half an hour, 40 minutes or so, half an hour. At 7:30, we start our CEO networking dinner. We all invited for this in the third floor. Over to Pravalika. Somebody is there from the Daniel. Yeah. So with that, thank you once again. See you soon.